Okay.
So today, super excited to be in the clubhouse with the great firm of KWB from Edmonton, Canada. Richard, David, and Darren, welcome guys. Good to have you here.
Hey, Rob.
Great to be here.
So 2 years ago, pretty much 2 years ago to the month, here we are in October 2020, October 18, or what I mean, September actually. We started a journey together with on coaching the three partners and some leadership team on how to improve the firm. Give us a summary, David. What did the business look like before we got started?
Right. Well, I think we were a pretty good firm. We had a good culture, a good foundation of some stuff just from a tech group that I'd been in for a number of years. We were probably a 7 or an 8 out of 10, but we were flat. We had flat revenues. We'd been at about the same level for 3-4 years in a row, a little bit of fluctuation, reasonably flat profits, good, but not growing, right? And not where we wanted. And that's really what drove us, I think. And so, we were good and we wanted to move to great.
And so what prompted you to, start the journey with me specifically? Because if you knew that was happening, were you like, and you had some tech experience, which is a forum-based mastermind, what was it that said, okay, you wanted to start working with me?
I think it was how specific you got. I mean, I think you impressed all of us when you came out and said $1 million per partner, revenue growth, lower time, all that kind of thing. And we thought, man, if this guy can even deliver, what do we say? If he can even deliver half or a third of what he's promising, it'll be worth it. And that's what drew us in.
A lot of people don't believe that, David. So it's good that you believed it. I'm very appreciative. So back then,
I was skeptical at first, but I just want to say something, Rob. The other thing is that we sort of knew that we could get there, but we thought it might take us 5 to 10 years to get there, where with you, we were going to shorten the timeline significantly, not stub our toes along the way. And it was totally worthwhile. I mean, I don't think we even fathom how far ahead we could be.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So back then, it was about 2.5 million revenue, 3 partners, still the same 3 partners. What does it look like 2 years later if we just take it out to the end of the calendar year? Let's start with the revenue. What's the revenue going to look like for the end of the year, David?
Yeah, so our revenue took off. We like you say, we only started in September of 18, so we only had 3 months in 18, but we drove revenue in those last 3 months, and we crashed through 3 million in 18. And in 19, we blew through 4 million and just exceeded 4 million. This year we were on track. Plan was, to increase another 1 million perhaps, but with COVID and everything else that's happened, that's put a little bit of brakes on us, but we're still ahead. We're still ahead this year. We're positioning ourselves better this year than we were last year, so that when this subsides a little bit or things get a little bit more normal, we fully expect to be back on track.
Yeah, so you're saying before we turn the recorder on that you'll probably hit about 4.3 or thereabouts this year. But still up on last year, which is great. So what's that? That's call it 1.8 extra revenue. What's happened with the profit margin? Because you mentioned that revenue was flat, profit was flat. What's happened with the margin the last couple of years?
Yeah, so I mean, we have reinvested in the firm for sure. We've offshored. We've got 4 team members offshore now. We've got another team member who's our new marketing manager, and she's in Ottawa, so she's not in Edmonton. We've got a couple more people here in the office, although we work remote a lot as well. And even with all that reinvestment, profit is up 50%, per partner compared to 2018 or 2017 levels.
Awesome, loving it. So back to the $1 million profit per partner. When do you think you'll hit that? Is that because you're thinking we might do it in 5 years? Do you think we'll hit that in year 3? Is it a possibility? What do you think?
Well, I think if we'd been on track for this year, we probably would have been just shy. I think our budgets were going about 850 to 900, somewhere in there. And so that meant that we were probably positioning ourselves for 2021. I'd say now we're probably looking at 2022, but if 2021 turns the corner quick, it's possible.
Yeah, you should do that. What about the time? So, because the the brand promise, if you will, with the right firm is $1 million profit per partner, while partner client delivery time is less than 500 hours. What was it 2 years ago, and what is it now?
About two years ago, it was like in the 700 range,
Mm-hmm.
750, and it's come down slightly, but it's still too high. That's the one major goal area that we are now focused on. In fact, we just hired a business manager, first time ever. New position is going to start in mid-November. That'll take a bunch of partner time off so that we can work on instead of in. So you know, we think we'll see a big effect on that in 2021 probably.
Yeah, cool. So everything's moving in the right direction, and let's get into the meat. Great result, congratulations. Let's get into the meat and the potatoes of what you've actually done. So you've already thrown a couple of things in there, David. We've got an offshore team of 4 in the Philippines. We've hired a marketing manager just recently this year, new business manager to run the day-to-day, ops person starts November. Give us a laundry list of some of the other things that you've implemented.
Sure. So the offshore team, one of the main reasons that we started that was to use a CEC, as you call it, a client excellence coordinator. And that's what one of those people there does. And it's worked out really, really well. It gets the files in good shape before the accountants here work on it. And then, you know, she does whatever she can to move the file along or to fill the gaps or whatever. So it reduces the time here. Another big project we worked on or started a few months ago and had some pretty good success on is just overall reducing file time. You know, and tied into that, I mean, you have a great program in terms of all the number of things that you do. And if you do them somewhat sequentially or, you know, in the right order, they'll start paying off dividends. And so, you know, we've been working towards the monthly recurring revenue, right? Mm-hmm. Well, when you set that and you set your fixed fee, and then you start reducing your time, your profitability comes through, right? Mm-hmm. And so we started to set some, you know, flat fees and fixed fees. And now that we've got that going, we're still working on it because that's an ongoing thing. But then once you do that, and now we're focused on reducing the time, that all goes to profit. Mm-hmm. And so that was another key thing that we did a few months back. We've got about 70 to 75,000 a month now in recurring revenue, monthly recurring revenue, and we want to grow that to about double that. Yeah, to about 150,000 a month.
Talk to us about the cloud project that you just started before we met, and then you expedited that with a full-time person, Shelley, I think her name is. Talk to us about that project.
So we started to get into the cloud about 3 years ago, maybe even a little more than that, and QBO specifically, and decided that that was the place that we wanted to be because it was, you know, going to be more of the future, AI and cloud-based and all the benefits of doing that. And actually, that's where 2 more of our offshore team has their focus. Shelley and Haley coordinated here; they supervise and manage that. And then Mandy and Mika in the Philippines, they do a lot of the day-to-day. And we've grown that from, we were 10 to 15 clients on QBO, just kind of dabbling in it. We have over 170 clients now in the cloud.
So just so I understand with that, you've got 2 team members in Edmonton coordinating, but the team in the Philippines, are they doing the conversions in the Philippines, or are they just managing it after the fact?
They help with the conversions, but the conversions are really coordinated and overseen here by either Haley or Shelley. But probably half or 3/4 of the work that's needed and prep is done in the Philippines.
And so with that, are you charging for those conversions, or is this part of your regular fee?
No, we charge a special project for those conversions.
What typically do you charge for doing that?
I don't know. I mean, we used to not charge near enough, and then we charged more, and it still wasn't enough. And so, well, or I guess because we could charge more. It's probably in the 2,000 to 2,500 range now.
Cool.
per conversion.
The
And
component of
it'll go
training.
up from there based on training.
Yeah.
What's that, Richard?
I was just going to say there's a component of training in there as well too, because we don't want to just set it up and then just leave them sync.
Yeah.
We train them to make sure that they can use it properly, and then it just helps us out. So it depends on how much training the users need.
And so what sort of opportunities have fallen out the back end of that? You know, so you've got the fee to convert them over, but what about other opportunities as a result of having more accurate data?
Yeah, well, lots of things. I mean, first off, it's opened up the opportunities for more service offerings from us. So, you know, of those 170 some clients, we're at about 25 or so that we actually do the bookkeeping for every month now, right? We never used to do that because it wasn't feasible to bring somebody's box of records into the office and lose them and misplace things. You know, it just doesn't work, right? But now with Receipt Bank and QBO and T-sheets and everything, it makes a lot more sense. So we're doing that on that side, but it also now sets us up on the advisory, controller, CFO side. And so, you know, a couple of years ago, we had our first CFO client. We now have 2 or 3 more that have recently come on board. We couldn't do that without accurate, timely information. If they weren't a foundation of QBO or something similar, we probably just wouldn't be able to do or deliver that kind of service.
Darren, I look at the three of you as a really well-functioning partnership, right? You take the coaching, you take the trainings, and then you implement, right? But I don't get to see behind the scenes, right? What do you guys do to be? Well, by the way, this is the perception, right? So maybe completely wrong.
You should come to a few of our meetings.
Yeah, sure. But the perception is that, you know, and then by the way, this has been commented to me from some of the other firms and the groups that you've interacted with as well, right? So there's definite perception there that this is a good, well-functioning partnership. Darren, what do you put that down to?
Well, you know, it's funny, Rob, because it's I talk about having 3 wives, 1 at home and 2 at the office, and you know, a partnership like this functions very much like a marriage in a sense. And laugh about that all the time, but it's you know, we're united in the direction that we're wanting to go, and I think that's probably the key thing to our success is that, you know, we're all wanting to achieve the same thing, and we're buying into the vision, we're buying into the process. You know, we challenge each other and we have disagreements on things, but we will always come to a consensus. And I think it would be challenging for a firm that, and I think, you know, we've seen that through some of the firms in our groups where, you know, people aren't wanting to step up and accept the change and do the work that has to, you know, that's involved with making it happen. So I think we're fortunate that way, that we're really quite aligned.
The other thing I'd add real quickly is just that I think we all bring a slightly different mindset to the equation, and we've all benefited from each other's individuality to make the team stronger itself, right? Darren's more IT focused, and David's been more sort of op and marketing of late, and I sort of make sure that the T's are crossed and I's are dotted on some of the more technical stuff sometimes. So it kind of works that way for the team. So
awesome.
I think communication's super important. Being clear about what you want to do, meeting regularly, and having a really good action item list, right? Because you throw a lot of stuff at us. There's a lot that needs to get done, and if you're not organized about it and deliberate and, you know, on top of it, and you kind of do it, and then boom, 6 weeks pass, and you kind of we have our next meeting with you, and you ask us how we did on that, and if we weren't already doing something every week on it, we didn't move it along, right? And it's a missed opportunity. But I think we've taken advantage of a lot of the opportunities.
So just let's talk about that. So I don't know what how much volume I send to you, because it's sometimes pretty fluid. It changes per firm. We've got our 40 core strategies, but how much of what I've suggested do you think you have implemented over 2 years?
I'd guess half, probably.
Okay.
And it's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and that was kind of every meeting coming back and saying, okay, fine, yeah, these are the 3 or 4 things we're going to do, and that kind of thing. And there's still stuff that, well, the business manager, that was a suggestion from you 18 months ago.
It was, yeah, yeah.
Right, and we're finally doing it, right? You know, the other thing, you know, there's lots of things that we haven't forgotten about, but there's only so much time, you know, in a day sometimes. Themes, you know, we just did our first theme, as you know, this past April, May. You'd suggested themes almost from the beginning. You know, partner time, working on instead of in, you know, still a work in progress. So, you know, there's a bunch of things we haven't done, but there's an awful lot that we have.
So you've grown the revenue by more than 70%, right?
Yeah.
In 2 years. You've increased the profit per partner by around 50%, which is a worthwhile outcome. You mentioned about doing stuff weekly, working on the business. Ballpark, how many hours a week are you working on the business to develop the business?
Guess 12 to 15 hours a week.
Yeah, that was good. And it probably differs between some of us, and David might be a little bit more. I had 10 hours in my mind, but
Yeah, I'm at least a day and a half, 2 days now. It's really changed my focus on where I want to put my time. The unfortunate part is that we're still stuck in the business because it's really hard to get the team developed to take on the in type work so that we can focus on. And but again, you know, the business manager, and we're trying to get the technical team up as well, and we've hired another resource for that to sort of take that burden off of Darren and I, because we when you start doing insurance engagements, they take a lot of our time. And so we went out and hired that piece out to try and free ourselves up. So we're following all the steps. It just takes a long time.
Yeah, this is not a silver bullet, you know, but we make progress every single quarter.
Yeah,
but if it's 12 to 15 hours now, and when we've been able to, you know, maneuver the chess pieces, before we got started, or when we just got started, how much time did you put into this?
Probably about half for me, and maybe even less for Darren and Richard, because it was mostly on me to, you know, strategy, vision, mission, and then, you know, kind of roll it out and involve them, and then everybody else on the team. So I don't know. I mean, were you guys even spending a day a week, or maybe less?
I don't think a day.
Yeah, I would say less.
Yeah. So it's easily double. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you've discovered, the more time you spend doing that, the better result you get. But at the start, you're stuck in client work, you're stuck in team questions, review time, and you've just got to carve out enough, and then it snowballs and gets bigger and bigger.
Right.
Yeah. So where to from here? How big and grand do you want to grow this firm? Like, we've had an awesome result last 2 years, but where do you want to take it?
Sky's the limit. I don't know. I mean, between the offshoring and that kind of thing, and we're really, I really used to think that we were limited because it was a service company and or service business, right? So it's limited to our hours, and it could only get so big. And I think you helped smash that glass ceiling for me. So, you know, I think now I'm thinking, you know what, if we plan it right and hire the right people, it doesn't really matter. It can get as big. I used to think, no, there's no way I want it to get super big because I'm just going to be busier. I'm just going to have to work more hours. But now I think there's a model that says that doesn't have to be the case. So let's just keep growing it by 20, 30, 40% every year.
5 million, like 4 or 5 years ago for me was like, that's crazy. I'll be working, you know, 7 days a week, and I don't want that. Now 5 million is like, okay, we can achieve that maybe in 2 years from now. What's the next goal after that? Is it 10?
Yeah.
You know, in the long. So,
you know,
and it's ironic because honestly, it's the exact opposite of what we used to think that was going to make us super busy. Now, if we can get over 4 and closer to 5, it frees up all sorts of capital to hire those high-level accountants. And you don't mind spending $300,000 or $240,000 on an accountant to do the work that generated all that additional revenue or a bunch of that additional revenue, right? So it actually frees it up rather than constricts it.
Well, what the difference here, guys, over 2 years is you started out as practitioners when I first met you, right? You had an accounting practice with the 3 partners being the practitioners, working whatever you're working, and having a nice income, right? It was okay, right? It was sort of 300,000-400,000 a piece, thereabouts back then. But now, with the changes you've put in place, we've got an accounting business, and this business, you're right, it can be as big as you want it to be once you maneuver it and put the right people in place, the right systems, processes, etc. And as you've discovered with an offshore team, as an example, we can have labor all over the world. One of the cool things about COVID, there's many disastrous things about COVID, but the best thing is that client communication acceptance levels have all changed. So that means you become borderless, and the clients aren't all in and around Edmonton. They're all over the country. And I was interviewing a firm last week, Kevin, and he said, what I'm doing now is building not a lifestyle for me, but I'm now building generational wealth for my family. So you start tipping where you guys are moving towards that million a partner, and as long as you don't spend it all, right, you can tuck a bunch away to create some real wealth out of this business, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
We think so.
Yeah, having a good time. So let's say there was a new firm as we wrap up. A new firm, 2, 3, 4 partners, your sort of size, looking to do something different, bit frustrated, bit flat, as you said before. What would you recommend to them?
Well, I think, Rob, our recommendation would be to sign on and, get on the Rob Nixon rocket ship and go for a ride. But
strap on too.
Strap on, yeah.
The real thing for us that we've benefited through the group, there's been a variety of things, but one is really just the structure and having to be accountable to somebody, and we're being accountable to you, or obviously to ourselves, but also to the other members in our groups, right? And that pushes us to move things forward, right? And we want to be that firm that that we look at or you look at and say, hey, we're doing things right. And really, just aside from working with you, we've learned a significant amount just from the other member firms.
Yeah.
And the best practices and the information sharing that goes on there, outside of this, our sessions that happen regularly, or even just in the sessions. And at the end of the day, we knew what we wanted to do. It was part of our strategic plan, and we actually had that mapped out when we first connected with you. And it was, again, Richard made the point earlier about let's stop stubbing our toes and let's stop, trying to recreate the wheel. And the content that you provided us is the how on how we get there, and some real practical lessons and some really practical tools. So my message to that firm is that this will be one of the best investments that you'll ever make, as long as you're prepared to listen and to put in the work.
Yeah.
I would just like to add that I think there's a lot of things that were so common sense that we wouldn't have thought of. Things that were staring at us right in the face, like the CEC roles and all that kind of stuff. And I think that we might have been able to get to a certain level, but I'm not sure that we'd be able to see what we see now without having had the time with you in the last couple of years. So honestly, I don't think that I would have thought about this as a business rather than a practice.
Cool. Well, guys, congratulations to date. We're 2 years into the journey. As you said before, David, the sky's the limit on now that the thinking and the foundations are put in place. And as the foundations are put in place, we've increased the revenue and the profit and reduced the time, which is the objectives. Who knows where we're going to be in the next 3 or 5 years, but wherever it's going to be an exciting journey. I appreciate you guys immensely because you actually take action, and you take action and things happen, right? So keep doing what you're doing, guys. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure everyone watching this will get value out of it as well, to maybe boot them into gear to do something different. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob. See ya.
You're welcome, Rob.